Forgiveness can be so incredibly difficult because forgiveness begins with hurt, right? If we weren't hurt or an offense hadn't happened, there would be no need to even consider forgiveness. And so let's start with hurt as we begin our conversation. And let me say this, right? You do not need anyone's permission to be hurt. So often it's easy for folks to say, well, I didn't mean it that way, or you shouldn't be so sensitive, as if we shouldn't be hurting. You do not need anyone's permission to hurt. You do not need their validation. If you are hurting, it is okay. But when we are hurting, that is exactly when forgiveness should become part of the conversation. And so, for us to truly understand forgiveness, we need to first understand what forgiveness isn't. And let's start somewhere really simple. All right, forgiveness is not saying that something is okay. Right? All the time. Think about like a minor offense, like somebody knocks into you in a crowded space. What do we say? They might say, I'm sorry. And how do we respond? Right? That's okay. This is our just reflex when someone says sorry very, very often. But what happens when the offense is greater? We still tend to say it's okay. But is it? Right? Forgiving someone is not saying that what they have done is okay. Right? To make this distinction in our home, what we do is we say thank you for apologizing. And the reason that we do this is when we thank someone for apologizing, we are acknowledging the effort that they're making without downplaying what has happened. And when you do that, it allows for accountability still to be present. All right, so let me tell you something else that forgiveness isn't. Forgiveness is not forgetting. All right, you've likely heard the phrase forgive and forget, but we don't have to forget in order to forgive. In fact, we should learn from the hurts in our lives. It can help us set up better boundaries in the future, and it can help us set up expectations for how we expect to be treated in the future. You do not have to forget to forgive. All right, another lie that we can hear, that we can feel very often, is that in order to forgive, we have to receive an apology, right? An apology is not necessary for forgiveness, because the fact of the matter is we can't control other people. I know most of us have tried, but we can't. And if we wait around for someone to apologize, then we're likely not going to get to a place of peace that can come with forgiveness. All right, I've often heard something to the sentiment of, well, they didn't ask for forgiveness, so why would I give it to them? No, forgiveness isn't for them. And you'll see these trends, all of the things that forgiveness isn't, all right, is always about someone else. When in reality, forgiveness is truly about us. All right, forgiveness, let me tell you a couple other things that it isn't. All right, forgiveness is not letting someone off the hook. No, there can be accountability and forgiveness together. These things are not mutually exclusive. Something else, all right, forgiveness is not an immediate catalyst for trust. Trust is something that has to be earned, and when trust is violated, it has to be rebuilt. You can forgive someone without even trusting them. And in the same way, forgiveness is not automatically reconciliation. All right, sometimes we have to separate ourselves from people. We have to put up that boundary, and that's okay. Forgiveness isn't reconciliation. Forgiving someone doesn't say that everything is okay between us. No, those are separate things that need to be considered, completely separated from one another. Let's talk about what forgiveness is. All right, so like I said a second ago, all of the things that forgiveness isn't, those are all things that are about someone else, right? Forgiveness is about you. All right, imagine with me that you are handed something really heavy, like a big rock, all right? And forgiveness is not holding on to that rock anymore. Forgiveness is putting that rock down. Because when we hold onto it, right, both of our hands are tied up, and it makes us weary. It can exhaust us to carry that around. But so often we feel like we have to, because we feel like putting the rock down would be letting someone off the hook. All right, another way that I talk about it sometimes is, have you ever seen one of those like really ugly naked cats? right? The Sphinx cats are what they're called. Like, side note, I've actually been around a Sphinx cat. It was pretty cool. But like, I don't want to carry the thing around, right? Imagine something you don't want to carry around, all right? The only way to stop carrying something is to put it down. Otherwise, what we're doing is walking around the world holding an ugly cat so we can hold it up and maybe throw it in someone's face and go, look at this ugly cat you gave me. No, you don't need to carry around the feline equivalent of a naked mole rat. You can put it down. You don't have to carry it anymore. All right, let me give you just one more analogy. All right, I want you to imagine a huge bird cage, right? And you are inside of it. But in your hand, you hold the key. All right, you are the only one who can unlock the lock that is holding you inside of that cage. But so often we choose not to use that key. And that key is forgiveness. Right? Forgiveness is what can let us out of the cages that other people can put us in. All right? Forgiveness can let us be free. All right? Something else important that we need to know about forgiveness is that forgiveness isn't actually about the past. Forgiveness is about your future. Right? We don't want to walk into the world with our past hurts in the driver's seat. And that's what happens when we choose not to forgive, or we haven't done the work to forgive, or shoot, maybe you didn't even know that you needed to forgive, right? And so what forgiveness is it's not about the past. It's actually about forging a different and a new future. Because when we hold on to the hurts of our past, they will determine the path of our future. It will have an effect on living out your unique purpose. And so that's why it can be so necessary to put those hurts down. All right, even when you have caused your own pain. I don't think I want my future to be defined by my worst moments. And I don't want my future to be defined by the hurts that others have caused me. If we don't want to walk into our future with the trends of our past, we have to learn to forgive. We have to learn to set down the offenses that we have experienced in our lives. And I know it's not easy, all right? So let's talk about how to do that. Sometimes it actually can be really simple. I've seen lots of folks sit down and decide to forgive someone and genuinely be able to release that offense really quickly. And if that happens, awesome. But for others, it is a process. And not just a process like it takes a long time, but even it has more to do with the layers, because sometimes we're able to forgive for one layer of a hurt just to kind of have that same hurt come around later. You need to process the way that you need to process. And so when you're experiencing hurt, that's when you need to pause and you need to consider forgiveness. You need to consider putting down that offense so you don't have to carry it around anymore. And so let me walk us through just a really simple process. All right, first, acknowledge the hurt. Acknowledge the hurt that you have experienced, right? Don't stuff it down. Don't pretend like it didn't happen. Don't pretend like it didn't matter. If there is something that gives your heart that pitter patter, if there's something that your mind continues to go back to over and over and over again, pay attention, because that's when it's time to consider forgiveness. All right? Take it to God. Pray about it and let Him show you what it is that you need to do to let the offense go, and then actually let go of it. I'm not trying to suggest that it's easy. It's not. I'm not trying to suggest that it'll happen immediately, because it won't very often. But what we do need to recognize is that forgiveness is for us. I would certainly never suggest that letting go was easy, but let me tell you something, and it's probably something you need to hear, all right? You are worth the work. Remember, forgiveness is not about someone else. It's about you and your freedom, all right? And you are worth the work so that you can find that freedom, all right? Forgiveness is an investment in yourself, in your future, in your loved ones around you, all right? So let's do the work and figure out what it looks like to walk into a new future.